Well, now that you've developed your rapport, you've demonstrated incredible credibility with your positioning statements, and you've uncovered tremendous latent pain using your deficit 3-level questions, you are ready for the cherry on top of that ice cream sundae. Now, Ray plays a lot of poker, and outside of hunting and fishing, playing poker is where he usually spends his time when he's not selling or teaching us how to sell. Now, let me ask you this. Would any of you like to play poker with Ray Leone for $10,000 per hand, winner take all? However, you wouldn't know whether it was high or low hand win that decides who wins until Ray gets a look at his cards. Well, I wouldn't take that bet either. And why not? Because Ray has all of the power because he's the only one who's in control of who wins the game. It's kind of stupid, isn't it? Well, salespeople, you do this every single day. Almost everybody watching this or listening to this right now, and I can hear thousands of these happening as I speak, they just lost a deal because they were playing in a game without knowing the rules. How many of you play in the game of selling every day where you don't know the rules that the customer is going to use to choose who wins? Well, we have a cheat code for you. It's called the WITY, W-I-T-Y, which stands for What's Important to You. It's a list of the rules, if you will, that the client is going to choose from to make their decision as to who wins. And just like you wouldn't play poker with Ray for $10,000 because that would be crazy, but you've all played your whole lives, your whole sales career, with much greater stakes without knowing the rules of the game most of the time. And to kind of expand on what the WITY is and how powerful it is, I'm going to bring back Ray and Tony again to talk about how they use the WITY. I'll see you in the next chapter.
So let me explain what the WITY is. It's a pre-printed document that you've created, and it should look professional. Embossed, raised letterhead. I mean, something that looks like it has some substance to it. Not a copied thing that you just printed off of your printer, but something that looks pretty nice. And it needs a combination of 3 things on it. Number 1, what is it that they want? Like, what problem do they want to fix? You know the old joke, when they buy a drill, they want to make a hole. That's why they buy the drill. So what is it that they want to achieve? Do they want to increase employee morale? They want to reduce making mistakes in hiring? Do they want to get higher profit per deal? Do they want to reduce their air conditioning expenditure? What do they want? That's one part. The other part is, what criteria will they use to choose who delivers that result? Financial stability of the company, public versus private owned, local versus national. What is it about the company? And thirdly, and very important, there must be at least one thing on that list that only you can do that uniquely identifies you. If you put together a WITY, if you will, that does that, then you will have the rules of the game. Example, what's on every WITY, of course, service, quality, price, every WITY. It might be guarantees. In my swimming pool business, it was guidance from an award-winning designer because I was the only award-winning designer in my world. So that was something unique. Back in the days when I was with Anthony Pools, they were on the New York Stock Exchange, and they manufactured all of their own equipment. So I would put one manufacturer of all equipment. Protection from mechanics liens because we had no subcontractors. So that's the kind of things that would be on my WITY. So on the low maintenance, health, fun, family togetherness in the swimming pool world, a car might be gas mileage, safety, comfort, prestige, resale value for a home. Again, overall maximum square footage for the least amount of money, acreage, new versus old. What criteria are they going to use to choose who they work with? will be reputation of the organization. How many reps do they have? Am I dealing with the number one salesperson in the city or whatever it might be? So you understand that WITY is a pre-printed list. And here's what I'm going to do with it. I'm going to take this list and I'm going to hand it to, let's say Tony's my client, and I'm going to introduce it this way. Tony, so that I don't waste your time talking to you about things you do not care about, but more importantly, to make sure I address those things that are of utmost importance to you, please take a look at this list and rank the top 5 in order of importance to you in this decision-making process. And I hand it to him. And he lists them. And I'm going to share with you something else I'm going to do, but one, I take it back, and I'm going to do a few other things with it, get clarity on his definition and why he chose them. But let's assume I've done all that. I take it back, and I say, so Tony, if the solution I provide you accomplishes each one of these 5 things, well, I've earned your business today.
There's only 3 ways to answer it, isn't there? Yes, which is a good one.
By the way, you're going to be shocked. Yes is 1/3 of the time. They're your first call closes.
Okay.
No, that occurs 1% of the time. Very rare.
Really?
Very rare.
Okay.
And when somebody says no, you just simply say, well, geez, what do I have to add to that list to make it a yes?
Ah.
And if they say nothing, then you say, well, why am I here? If I give you everything you want and you're still not going to buy, then why am I here? Then you're gone.
You walk away.
And you're happy. And they're going to wonder forever what you had. Again, when do you want to know it? By the way, notice I'm asking a closing question. I haven't opened my briefcase yet. I want you to understand. You met with a prospect. Well, I don't care whether it's a multi-billion-dollar company or a homeowner or somebody buying a television set. You haven't talked about your product at all. Not a single word of puking has been done yet. We've established our rapport, our credibility. We've asked those deficit questions. Now we're introducing their buying criteria. And nothing about the product that we sell. When I was in a pool business, they didn't know whether I did vinyl or gunite because we haven't talked about it yet. We haven't talked about how big it was going to be, but I'm asking them to buy.
Right.
If I give you what you want, will you buy? Is that a fair question?
Yeah.
Yes, of course it's a fair question. The answer 2/3 of the time is yes, if. Yes, if the price is right. Yes, but I got to take it to my boss. Aha! I thought you were the economic buyer. By the way, that's another benefit of it closing on the WITY now. You're going to find out whether you're talking to the real economic buyer.
Right.
And if you're not sure their disc profile, you will know now by the way they handle the WITY. You will know. The D's will say, I'm not filling that out. The I's will say, oh, no, they'll do it very carefully. The S will think about it. If they're with another person, they'll say, well, your person with them, well, what do you think? And they'll go like that. And the C will say, leave it with me and let me think about it.
So I have a couple questions there. What happens if the D does throw it back at you?
You hit them. You say USOB, pow, and you whack them. No, that's what you would like to do.
Right. Realistically.
What you do, you say, you're the exact person we designed this program for because we don't want to waste your time. This list is my marching orders from you. So just tell me what it is, and I'll put them down. What is it most important to you? Boom, boom, boom. Because I don't want to make your decision for you.
Right. Ooh, okay.
But you notice, I'm not backing down.
Right.
And they respect that.
Okay.
They respect that.
And then the other part to that, which you mentioned, what if someone wants to take it home with them?
They can't. I would never. If you worked for me and left this document with a client, I would fire you. It is such a valuable part of your strategy that the competition should never be able to get. I'd rather lose a deal than let my competition get their hands on that.
Really?
And I say to the client, I'm sorry, I'd love to leave it with you, but I would get fired.
Okay.
This is a proprietary document.
Okay. And then the last question I would have then is, say you have a husband or wife, or you're talking to 2 decision makers. Do you get a WITY for each person?
Yeah, I prefer that, yes.
Okay.
Because and the reason I want to do that, and this is, by the way, I remember doing this with a committee of 15 people. They all were different. They had 1 or 2 similar, but they were different. And they were different priorities. Where the accountant Priority number one, of course, was the price.
Cost.
The
yeah.
guy who was actually going to have the result of the problem, he cared about the quality being number one. Price was number 5. So the thing is, that's the point of using the document. When you have them different, that demonstrates the value of it. You say, look, here's the key. You want one set of criteria. This person wants another set of criteria. And if I'm only addressing one, we're leaving somebody else's out. And in a B2B world, that creates a lot of resistance. Mm-hmm. And you don't get buy-in from everybody.
Makes sense.
By talking to every stakeholder involved and incorporating their decisions into your solution, they realize that they've been listened to. Even though we may not have hit their priority the way they wanted, they know that we've at least listened to them.
Okay.
And we don't bring the solution that we think is the right solution. We bring them the solution that they want. That's what makes us unique.
Okay.
You differentiate yourself more by your process than by the solution you bring. You differentiate yourself more by the process you use than the solution you bring. Main competitors can bring a solution that you bring. The key is bringing a better defined solution to a more well-defined problem. That's the difference. That is the uniqueness of what we do. Mm-hmm. So, imagine now you don't get to the economic buyer. You're talking, and how many times do we talk to a gatekeeper? And the gatekeeper says, well, I know what they want. And now you go give the presentation and the economic buyer's there. The economic buyer says, well, what about, let me give you one. We work with offshore oil drilling. I have some different clients that supply critical components. Mm-hmm. And the economic buyer might say, well, wait a minute, what about the just-in-time delivery of critical components? How come that's not included in your process? And then you turn to the process owner, the purchasing guy, and you say, but he didn't say that was important. Now you look red-faced, they look red-faced, and everybody's embarrassed, and that person might get fired, and I don't get the deal.
Right.
So I want to get to I need to get to the economic buyer.
And so would you explain that to the gatekeeper?
Exactly.
Okay.
Here's, if you want to get past the gatekeeper, you must share with them why it is in their best interest to get you to the decision maker. And just that conversation is how I would get myself.
You're just protecting them. Let's do this together.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So quality, single source responsibility. So if they got multiple vendors, what's very common today, it's called integrative management. There's a lot of huge real estate management companies that if you have a skyscraper, mm-hmm. they will do everything in that skyscraper. And they'll sub out, the cleaning, the lighting, the air conditioning, the food, the cafeteria, everything. Mm-hmm. Well, if you're the owner, then you only have to come to me, that one source. So that single source responsibility, I don't have to be looking at, invoices from multiple vendors. Right. And the joke is you have one neck to squeeze. so people will want that. Experience in the industry. My first big contract with a bank, I remember this like it was yesterday, because this actually was one of my defining moments. I'm presenting sales management training for branch managers of a bank. I'm sitting in the boardroom with everyone, the CEO, the entire board of directors of the bank. And the president or the CEO says to me, well, Ray, have you done this for any other banks? And of course I had not. So here's what I've trained myself. When you don't have an answer, ask a question. So it gives me time to recover. I said, well, would you consider that good or bad?
That's a great question.
Well, he looked at me like I was nuts. And he didn't say anything. He just looked stunned.
Okay.
And that gave me the moment I needed. And then my brain kicked in from being frozen at that moment. I said, principles of human behavior do not change, only the application of those principles. We've customized this program specifically for your bank because of all the research I've done. These are the principles of leadership will deliver you the desired result. If you were the next bank that calls me, I'm going to erase your name and put their name on it, and it's going to be the canned package. It's only the design customized the first time. and it's lucky that it's you.
Yeah.
So I made, and that's another thing we talk about in our selling. Whatever your competition is going to use to sell against you. By the way, my competition on that deal had 54 banks.
Wow.
54, and I had 0, and I won the deal because I had none. You need to take what your competition would consider the negative about you and make that the reason to buy. Do not minimize it. Actually blow it up and make that your must-win issue. Because here's what happened. Now my competition comes in behind me, and they reinforce what I just said.
Right.
They say I don't have any.
Yeah.
And the client's going, yeah, he's told me that. He doesn't, but the client's thinking it, not saying it.
So this is an important issue to bring up because I know from experience using the WITY, it's a talking document, and you get so excited about it, you want to sell off of it, which is a huge. I mean, you tell it's the biggest taboo in the sales funnel, sell off this. But explain a little bit about the things you put on the WITY to bring up those talking points.
ISO 6 Sigma capability. One of the things that I like, cultural fit, for instance, would be something that normally would not come up in conversation.
Right.
The reason I say I want to make it a talking document, the engagement index, the knowledge asset to book value ratio, all those kinds of things that I would bring up. One of my favorite words now, because most of my clients are very large corporations, are financially really well heeled, I'll put recession resilience. And people will not check it. So let's say that there's something on that list. Let's say you Six Sigma. Let's say you are the only company in your industry that is Six Sigma certified, and the customer does not choose it. You say, I noticed you didn't select Six Sigma in your top 5. Most organizations in your situation rank it in the top 3. What is it about your place that doesn't even put it in the top 5? And the guy will say either one of two things. Either I assumed that, like it was such a given,
Right.
or, well, what is it?
Okay.
Either they don't know what it is, or they assume that it's a given to even play the game. And look how important it is to know that. But now let's say he says, oh yeah, it's got to be Six Sigma. I just assumed that. Well, now look what happened. You just eliminated all of your competition, and you haven't even got into your solution yet.
Wow. This is when you do this, it feels like a very high level conversation you're having.
It is. But look, and I say this in this way because it cost me a deal one time. I used to not put this preface in it. I now say, I'm going to ask you a trick question. I used to not say that, but you're going to hear why in a second. I'm going to ask you a trick question. What on this entire list will you let us not do and still be your supplier? Now, the client generally says, I want them all.
Right.
In other words, you won't buy from anyone that can't do all of these things? Is that what you're telling me? And if the client says yes, remember, there's at least one thing on there that only you can do.
At the very least.
At the very least.
Yeah.
So now you've eliminated all of your competition.
Wow.
Now look at how much information I've got. I've got your buying criteria. I've uncovered whether you're the economic buyer. I got your likely objection. It's got to go before the board. They've got to get it in the next year's budget, whatever the answer might be. But that was the objection they were going to save until the end. And now if I'm worth my salt, I am now going to be able to bring back a solution that eliminates that objection during the presentation.